Hi everybody, it's Lynne McTaggart. I'm author of The Field, The Bond, The Intention Experiment, and my latest book, The Power of Eight. And I'm so excited to tell you that it was published yesterday in paperback. And already it's run out of its first printing, and they're printing a second batch, and they're planning a third. So it's been really exciting for me to see the response on Amazon. Amazon and elsewhere have sold out their books. We were listed as the #1 hot new release, both in science and New Age and spirituality, which is really exciting for me because it's covering all the bases. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what the new book is all about. Because it's got a little extra bit to it from the paperback, from the hardback. It's got a completely new chapter talking about what's happened since I released this book. There have been Power of Eight groups happening all over the world that have been really amazing. And also I set up some Power of Eight groups in a select batch of churches so that I could witness exactly what happened. What's amazing is that I've witnessed, as I have really for 10 years now, healings in an instant that continue to astound me, that I continue to record and to think about and to study and to try to determine what on earth is going on, and also why on earth I was chosen to do this. So I thought I might read you a little bit about what's in this book and what I've been doing since. Before I start, I also want to say that the new book, in the afterword, talks about some of our intention experiments and some of the amazing results we've had in the past year. It'll talk about the experiment we did choosing the most violent place in America, a portion of northern St. Louis, Missouri, and how we were able to lower violence by 43% with the power of intention. And also an amazing study we did in the Middle East last November, where we enlisted people who were Arabs from 8 different Arab countries and Israeli Jews from Jerusalem. And we had them all intend together to lower violence in Jerusalem. And the book talks about the amazing thing that happened between the participants from the two sides. And remember, these sides are people who have grown up being taught to hate each other, and how coming together with intention really enabled the heart to leap across the fence. It's going to talk about, and it has in there information about how to participate in future intention experiments. And we've got another big one planned in November and also April, where we're going to be enlisting even more people around the world. The last experiment we did had people from 143 countries, but we want to grow even bigger and start working on ending polarization in areas like America now that's so polarized between Democrats and Republicans. We have an amazing experiment planned where we're going to invite the two sides to come together and have them do something together to see what happens between them, to show that this can be a model for overcoming division. So I want to just read a little bit from the experiment and the book to tell you a bit about what happens to people who are part of Power of Eight groups. Now, one of the amazing things that happened last year that I record in the paperback version of the book is observing Power of Eight groups at the Mile High Church in Denver. They were the first group that I basically said, okay, set up your own Power of Eight groups and let me watch and witness this and record what happens. And there have been amazing instantaneous healings. When I spoke there last September, I was witness to people in Power of Eight groups where we had a woman who was due for a knee replacement, and she could barely walk. being able to do deep knee squats, and her knee returned to normal. She was able to cancel surgery. We had somebody else who had a dislocated shoulder in terrible pain, and during her Power of 8 group, her shoulder just slotted back into place. And many, many other miracles like this. A woman with who had been a stroke victim, who couldn't focus her eyes afterward, suddenly being able to see normally again after just being part of a Power of 8 group. Now, all a Power of 8 group is a group of 8 people, or around 8, doing intention together. And the book explains, it's a full manual about how to do this. It's a very simple procedure, but there are certain techniques to follow. But in that group, and this is the most amazing part of it of all, not only the recipients get healed, sometimes the senders themselves get healed too. So let me read a little portion of it so you can hear what happens when people just take part and how they can be the recipients of this amazing rebound effect. So I'm going to tell you about one of the participants in one of the Mile Height Power of 8 groups. He was a guy called Wes Chapman, and he had decided not to put himself forward because one of the other women had stage 4 breast cancer, and he felt, or lung cancer I think it was, and he felt that she was more deserving. So hear what happened to him. Wes Chapman, a burly 65-year-old with a big-hearted laugh, was among the 8 at the Hyatt Hotel. Although he'd suffered from depression for years, he didn't want to put himself forward as the receiver, as he felt that Linda and Natalie's needs were greater. But Wes had ample reason to be chosen as the receiver. In 1971, he'd been in his sophomore year at Colorado State University studying physical science, with hopes of either going to medical school or carrying out medical research, when the U.S. government abolished draft deferments for college men. Wes was reclassified 1A, and as his number in the draft lottery was lower than those who were drafted the year before, he realized that he would likely be sent to Vietnam that year. Wes knew what he was about to face. The Pentagon Papers, the classified Department of Defense report detailing a litany of government deceptions about the course of the war and the scale of American casualties, had just been published in the New York Times and Washington Post. To avoid being drafted into the Army, infantry, and facing ground combat, Wes enlisted into the Air Force, but he scored so highly on his vocational tests that the Air Force assigned him to combat intelligence training, and he ended up serving in a combat zone during the final chaotic years of the war. The experience proved so traumatic that Wes returned home deeply depressed. I had a lot of hopes and dreams, but somehow the prospect of being drafted just made me give all that up. I went into survival mode just to make it through wartime, he said. And then my life after that seemed to continue in patterns of darkness or suffering, and even death to a surprising extent, and an exercise in survival for years. The one bright spot in Wes's life was his marriage in 1999 to his second wife, but she developed a fast-growing cancer, and he lost her just 7 years later. Her death left him devastated, both emotionally and financially. The cost of her treatment had been so exorbitant that he'd had to give up his house. He worked as a long-distance trucker for years, and her medical bills were paid by by him sleeping in the truck's bunk every night and relying on truck stops across America for washing and laundry. After retiring a few years ago, that pattern of depression continued, he said, and by the time I met Wes, he'd descended into many years of what's the use depression. The longest and smallest chore Even making breakfast for himself had become a difficult ordeal. The only activity he enjoyed was attending the Mile High Church and his 15-year-old contemplative practice. Frankly, my meditative practice is what kept me going. During the Power of Eight group session, Wes felt a strong energy emanating through the group's hands and a change in the energy of the room. I felt a very special sort of atmosphere was being created. High vibration, very pure, a little piece of heaven, call it what you will, but it seemed to me that there was something special in that room. After a night's sleep, Wes woke up feeling profoundly different. The first thing I felt was this energy. I could do what I needed to do and do it happily. The second thing was amazingly heightened sensory perception, as well as emotions that go with those perceptions. I had a cup of herbal tea and it knocked my socks off. And I went outside and I noticed that the flowers and the trees were just so beautiful. It was like all my senses were multiplied by 5 or 10. He also discovered that he was suddenly and uncharacteristically social, both to people he knew and to total strangers. I had definitely gotten into the habit of avoiding people. Now when I see someone coming, I automatically feel enjoyment, and these good feelings come so quickly and so easily. Of all of his spiritual practices, Wes has experienced nothing like it before. I've done a lot of work over the years, but this was the most phenomenal, the most powerful, and the most direct. The second night after the Power of Eight group, Wes had an extraordinarily lucid dream. More like a vision, it was so real. I found myself back on the campus where I was drafted, and there was a chapel there I'd always liked and walked past every day, the only sacred space on that campus. My 19-year-old self was waiting for me, and I felt the most powerful emotions of love and connection and joy. All of his high hopes, all of his beautiful dreams, all of his optimism, all of his youthful energy. Somehow I'd left all that behind in that trauma. But to meet him again, and he's been waiting there so patiently for me, it was like I got it back. My 19-year-old self had been salvaged and plugged back in. Wes's younger self also came with a message, not so much with words, but with some sort of intuitive understanding that he shouldn't feel sad about his lost years and that there was still time to enjoy his life. Now, with my experience and wisdom and strength and toughness and his optimism and hope and joy, it's like, hey, I get to live life all over again at 65. And that's exactly what's happened to Wes. In those months that's followed, he's now doing power walks and lifting weights. He's getting into writing again, and he's involved heavily in the Mile High Church, teaching other people as well to use the Power of Eight. One last little bit I want to read you. This is about me, and it's about you. I didn't consciously choose this path. I discovered this process largely by accident, but most of the time it feels as though I'm a kind of amanuensis, faithfully taking my dictation from the universe. I carry on measuring, documenting, refining our understanding of the nuances and outer boundaries of this ancient miracle, offering the scientific proofs that are palpable to the modern Western mind. Now that we have the capability to connect audiences and around the world and allow them to interact, we're planning larger intention experiments, peace intention experiments, involving every continent on the planet. Every so often, a reader reminds me why I do this. You know, you are doing more than research, wrote one participant after the Middle East experiment. You are breaking open people's hearts. I remain the Power of Eight's gatekeeper, charged with protecting its integrity. But the treasure inside ultimately belongs to the world. It belongs to you and me. Healing as a group is a natural part of your birthright. a capacity that you were born with and that was there all along for you to make use of. Not unlike finding that all you needed to do is click your heels in order to be instantly transported home. Don't squander this gift. Find your group of 8 and discover it for yourself. I really encourage you to create a Power of 8 group. And as a little thank you for people who are buying the paperback, I have a special offer that you can see by going onto my website, lynnmctaggart.com. It'll click through just from the front page. What we're doing is offering people 7 free gifts for buying the book between now and September 27th. That's tomorrow at midnight, Pacific time. And we're offering a bunch of wonderful free gifts. One of them is an intention workbook. And it's something like a 50-page workbook, so you can keep well track of all of your intentions and how to do them. And it provides my 12-step process of how to do intention. We also have a handbook that's a more explanation about how to run groups. I have 2 amazing videos that are me talking about all of the steps, those 12 steps for how to do intention, and another video just amplifying how you use Power of 8 groups. A nice little poster you can download, which will help you gather your group of 8. You just pop it into a bookstore or a health food store or your local church and explain to people what you're doing. And the poster does it all. All they need to do is sign up. And then we have 2 other things. One is, instead of a launch party that's a physical one, I decided to do a virtual launch party. So I'm running a free teleseminar for anyone who buys the book. Toward the end of October, we'll be setting the date soon. And all you need to do is to go to my page on my website once you've bought the book and just sign up, and you'll be able to attend it. And during that live teleseminar, I'll be answering questions and also helping you get involved in your own intention experiment. And finally, I run a masterclass every year. It's a year-long thing called the Intention Masterclass. And we start out with 6 weeks of instruction, and then I put you in groups and monitor you and work with you through the whole year. So we're giving away 3 free places, and if you are able to buy the book by the 27th, that's tomorrow, you'll be entitled to all these free gifts and the chance to be part of a master class for free. So all you need to do is either click on my front page where it talks about the Power of 8 book and the special offer, or go to lynnmctaggart.com/the-power-of-8, and you'll see all of the information about how to claim your free gifts and what to do to buy the book. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for supporting me and supporting my work. And please, if you're not part of our community, sign up to lynnmctaggart.com, and you can find out how to attend, how to take part in all of these amazing intention experiments. Because it's not just a mirror effect that happens in the small groups, but also the large groups. Taking part in these experiments not only changes the target, it changes you too. So before I go, I just want to see who's saying hello. I'm going to just turn this around and just see we've got people from all kinds of places who have been on. So fantastic. Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody for attending. And please enjoy my book and enjoy, there we go. And please enjoy your Power of 8 group. Thanks so much. Take care.